Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We're getting pretty close now to the start of the season. Checked tonight a few minutes ago, and as of Wednesday of this week, you'll be 2 weeks out from that first game. So please keep in mind as we're getting closer and closer to the beginning of the year, the importance of hydration and also your nutrition. So that we can be successful regardless of the weather conditions. One more reminder about the importance of supporting one another. We're going to get into some clips tonight, primarily from our semis and our finals, where there's an opportunity to learn from some things that we did and didn't do. Those people got to Ford Field or got to the semis because of their work on the field. Obviously, they're very, very good officials. So please do not look at this as a downgrade for those individuals. But when you work on the big stage, you need to understand that there are going to be a lot more eyes on you than would typically be during other times of your season. And it does afford us, as previously said, an opportunity to learn both things that are done well and things that we can improve upon. All right, this first slide is just an explanation graphically about how the connectivity of what we do on the field has a continuous cycle aspect to it. Every play starts with a pre-snap, and then we have that live ball period, and then the play ends, and we have to finish it up with solid dead ball officiating. And then we go back to the first circle again, dealing with our pre-snap routine. But all of those things have to intertwine and have to mesh so that we handle our business on the field correctly. All right, so pre-snap mechanics. What's the big deal about pre-snap? Well, first of all, we have to do the same thing every time. We have to know what it is. We have to think about it. You know, after all the years that I spent on the field, I spent time thinking about my pre-snap routine and making sure that everything was squared away. We need to talk about it as a crew. It needs to be a priority within our crew that we are preparing properly, whether it's a kicking play or a play from scrimmage. We got to practice it. Now, in your case, you don't have the benefit of preseason practices and scrimmages. You might get a few snaps at a scrimmage, but more than likely you're going to have 3, maybe 4 people with 2 teams. And it's just, from our standpoint, it's really not authentic. So you need to use experiences against or in lower level games, such as junior varsity, freshman, middle school games. Instead of just kind of mailing it in and going through the motions, that's an opportunity for you to practice all of these procedures that we're going to talk about tonight. Take pride in it. You know, those things that we take pride in, we tend to do really, really well. Whether it's how we dress, take pride in our golf game, take pride in our family, whatever it happens to be. If you take pride in pre-snap mechanics, you're going to be headed in the right direction. Then the last thing is you need to evaluate it after every game, but indirectly, you should be evaluating your pre-snap routine after every play. And if you realize that, for instance, you didn't check the game clock in between plays, that's when you need to say to yourself, I'm not going to make that mistake again tonight. I'm going to fix that, and I'm going to do all aspects of the pre-snap to make sure that I've checked all of the boxes. All right, so in addition to having to do all these things, we have 3 different styles of play that affects how quickly we have to think and do those things. The slow pace is when we have teams that huddle. And some teams are going to huddle other than when they are in desperation mode at the end of the game or at the end of the half. Others may go no huddle, where sometimes they'll huddle and then other times they'll go right to the line of scrimmage. For instance, they make a big play and make a first down. They may rush to the line of scrimmage and want to run a play. We have to be prepared for that scenario just as much as a team coming out of the huddle. And then, of course, the NASCAR effect of a hurry up offense. Now, let me say right off the bat that a hurry up offense does not mean a hurry up job by the crew. And we'll get into the weeds on that a little bit later as we go through this PowerPoint. We've got to be in position to mentally and physically perform the duties of our position. All right, so any one of these things can trip you up if you miss it. So we've got to catch all of these things as a part of the pre-snap routine. First and foremost, we've got to finish the previous play. And again, when we start looking at video, we're going to see where we hurried getting a ball into the umpire unnecessarily. And that didn't have negative consequences in this particular situation, but it could have. We need to make sure we have players separated before we even think about a football. Before we even begin doing these other things, if the first thing that we do is at the end of the play is to look up at the clock, that could be detrimental to us because we might miss a personal foul. After we've got the players separated, which usually at the end of the play, 2-3 seconds, maybe as much as 5, the players have separated, and now we can take a peek at the scoreboard, checking the game clock to make sure that it's either running if it's supposed to, or it's stopped if we have an incomplete pass, or a runner out of bounds, or a fumble out of bounds, whatever it might happen to be. And in a lot of our venues, we only have one scoreboard. We're going to have 2 play clocks if we have the benefit of that in our stadium, but usually there's only one game clock. So when the referee is facing the clock, he or she is going to have to take primary responsibility for ensuring that the game clock is stopped or started properly. We definitely don't want our deep officials turning around, turning their backs to players to check to see what we have as far as the game clock. All right, only after the players have separated, only after everything is calm, do we even think about getting a ball into the hash mark. Most of the time, well, I shouldn't say most of the time, sometimes the relay comes from the referee. The short wing will pitch it backwards to the referee, and the referee will toss it to the hash of the umpire. Other times it'll come from the deep wing. But we don't need to hurry this process. Here is your sweet spot. Your sweet spot is getting the ball spotted between 28 and 32. That's seconds on the play clock. If we get down to 25, we probably need to think about pumping up the play clock to 25. But that's a referee issue. But here, this is what we're shooting for, getting that ball down during that 4 to 5 second range. If you're relaying the ball, wait until you've got a clear lane. Do not throw mortar shells into the umpire, because invariably you're going to hit somebody on the helmet and it's going to look awful. Wait until you've got a clear lane to do it. Umpires step around the players so that the referee or the deep wing has a clear shot to use so that we can get you the ball, and then you can take a couple of steps around players and spot the ball at the hash. Substitutions are a big deal. Now, in high school football, we don't have the substitution process. If team A subs, in college football, everything slows until team B has had a chance to match up. There's no such procedure right now by federation rules. But at the same time, we need to control the pace of the game. So umpires, if team A is substituting, they're there doesn't need to be a hurry to get that ball down on the hash mark. In fact, we need to make sure, regardless of the circumstances, that all 7 of the officials are ready to work before we put that ball down on the turf. And again, I've got a clip that will illustrate that point. It's also important for us to notice from a deep 3 perspective, well, for that matter, all over the field, if Team A substitutes, what should we expect from Team B? It's probably a good chance that they're going to make a substitution or 2 as well to match up. If Team A is now going to go with 5 receivers, no running backs, then we're probably going to see at least 1 more defensive back than we typically would from a standard Team A formation. So we're looking for ins and outs. If we see 3 defensive players coming into the game, what should we expect coming out? 3. And what I used to do is, 2, 3, whatever it was, I would put them out kind of the side like this, 3 in, 3 out. Okay. I got 3 in, I'm looking for 3 to clear. And then after the 3 have cleared the field, then I'm still going to do my confirmation of 11 players for Team B. Now, down here at the bottom, I just want to point out that there are times when we can be distracted in our pre-snap routine. What we need to try to do is not let that happen. And the way we do that is if a coach has a question, just say, Coach, I'll be right with you. Finish your job. Make sure that you've got things squared away before you attempt to answer the question. Now, the coach only has a limited amount of time too, because they got to get the next play in, or they got to have the defensive call, whatever it happens to be. So sometimes it's just better to wait until we have a dead ball, like a timeout into the quarter, change of possession, what have you. All right, we need to know down, distance, and line to gain from again, all over the field, but primarily from a deep 3 perspective. I want to know that it's 2nd and 8. I want to know that the line to gain is the 50-yard line, whatever it happens to be. Here's a coaching point for you. For sure, make sure the down box is correct. Ideally, so that would be the board, because not only does that have confirmation in terms of where we are with down on the field, but it also lets people know that we're on top of this, and it shows a high degree of effectiveness on the part of the crew. So for sure the down box, and if necessary, referee can flip on microphone and say, clock operator, please correct the down, it's 3rd down. All right, time score situation. We need to know where we are, where is time of the essence, or is it the middle of the 1st quarter? We should always know the number of remaining team timeouts, particularly when a team has exhausted their 3. And whether it's through O2O or whatever it happens to be, around the horn, it ought to be, hey, Team B does not have any more timeouts. And we got to plant that up there to make sure that we don't make a mistake in terms of granting a timeout that they don't have. And of course, part of that is we need to communicate to the coach, Coach, you're out of timeouts, but that doesn't mean that a timeout won't be requested. An important one, you got to settle into your initial position, not, running with your back to the line of scrimmage, not backpedaling to the point where you might end up on your fanny. You need to be back at your 22 to 25, or for a back judge, 25 to 27, stationary in plenty of time to be settled. Because you need to make sure that your sideline is clear, people are out of the way. You need to know the formation and what keys and responsibilities you may have on a given play. You need to know where the goal line is. If you have your heels on the 20-yard line going in, how many big lines does it take you to get to the goal line? 3. You need to know that, because when you're working, staying ahead of a play, multitasking, by watching an active engagement on the part of the offense and the defense and trying to get to your spot. You need to know when you get to that third line, instead of looking down to know the pylon is there, you need to know that that is the goal line. When we get down around the goal line, we need to communicate with our sideline partner every down. My goal line, I'm here. Okay, I'm now at the end line, et cetera, et cetera. And if we have a loss of yardage, we might go on one play, we might be at the goal line pylon. The next play, we might be at the back pylon. And then the third play, because of a loss, we might be back to the goal line. We need to make sure that we're sharing that information. You are never going to line up between the 5 and the goal line. You're on the 5, or you're on the goal line. You're not at the 3, nothing in between. And then, of course, the end line position. All right, so in summary, we got to be composed, ready to go every play. Might be the play of the game, might be a play in the first quarter, but it might be the game-changing situation. We got to be ready for it. Down and ready at your field position. Got to have awareness of all the pertinent information, down distance. If you scouted the team properly, you should have a good idea that when you've got a certain number at your side of the field, there's a good chance the ball is coming to that side. Communicate within the crew. We got to concentrate, and I know that's hard. And as human beings, we get distracted. But as quickly as possible, we got to get back on task to make sure that our head is where it needs to be. We have to be prepared to react, and that gets back to our training. But trust me, if you're out of position, your reaction is going to be panic as opposed to composed. And as previously mentioned, we need to make sure that we evaluate what we're doing every play, but especially after every game, and not only individually, but as a crew. Now, part of our pre-snap is to recognize where our threats are. So at the bottom of the screen, we've got a trips formation. And at the top, one-on-one, you'll see that there's no safety help for this corner. That defensive back is one-on-one with this DB, or with this wide receiver. Conversely, at the bottom, we could potentially have some picking action. Typically, that doesn't happen when you don't have press coverage, but it still could occur, whether on purpose or by accident. All right, so let her run, Gregor. Now, so the deep at the top of the screen has got to be ready for that. And he reacts pretty well. And we get it covered. He reads it that the pass is going to come down at about the 20-yard line. So he pulls up. Just make sure that you have plenty of distance. Distance is your friend. We will talk more about mechanics in 2 weeks. But that's the talking point here. He moves pretty quickly because he recognizes the fade possibility. It's an incomplete pass, pretty well done. All right, next clip should be 46. This is going to be one of those plays, as previously mentioned. You can see our deep wing is still moving backwards. He's still on the field. He's not situated. We can't start plays like this. It won't work. We're going to get burned. Now, this might have been his responsibility. It may have been a situation where we put the ball down too quickly. That I don't know what the circumstances are. All I know is that before that ball is on the turf, we need to make sure that we have 7 people in position to work. All right, next clip. Number 99. This is clip 99, Gregor. All right, what we're going to get here is that the deep wing at the top of the screen is slow to react. If you go back to the snap, you'll note that his initial key is the wide guy, one-on-one, with safety help. And you can see that the receiver is going to run a really short route. In fact, he knows he's out of the play immediately. The ball's not going to him, so he pulls up. Now, a tip for you, whether you're the back judge or one of the deeps, is when your key pulls up and doesn't really do too much, the ball is going probably to the other side of the field, and you need to drop those hips and be prepared to give ground quickly. You need to broaden your vision, just as we should have here. This play went deep from the other side of the field. Um, Now, is it a big deal because the back judge had it bracketed with the deep wing at the bottom of the screen? No, but it's not a habit that we want to get into regularly. All right, let's jump to referee U now. This is going to be another example of the deep wing not being in position to officiate. Well, it's actually the back judge. Now, as bad as it was for the deep wing, it's even worse for the back judge. You know, the back judge is our free safety. And here, the free safety is number one, not even in the center of the field and isn't anywhere near the depth that he needs to be. Now, good fortune was on our side here. There was no harm done. We were able to react, get back to the goal line. But once again, we're not always going to be that fortunate. So we need to make sure that we take care of our business. See, umpire is backing out of there. So not sure exactly what's going on, whether this is back judge responsibility or what have you. But those are things we got to work out as a crew so that we don't allow these things to take place. All right, next clip should be 109. This is going to be a reference to down distance in the situation. We've got third and about 3. Now you can see that we've got a jumbo package over here to the bottom of the screen. So while they might do something like in the nature of a naked boot with the quarterback coming to the top of the screen, there's a good possibility that this play is going to come to the bottom of the screen. So we should have plenty of attention with this formation. Short wing, deep wing, back judge should all be all over this. Now, line judge or the short wing does a nice job giving ground. Doesn't get caught up in the play over here at the bottom of the screen. He sees it coming wide, gives ground. The runner cuts back for him a little bit. That helped. So we just need to be aware and we need to be thinking with our teams. That's the reason why this clip is in here. There's nothing sexy about it. It's probably went for a loss, maybe no gain. But the point that I'm trying to make with the clip is we've got to be thinking right along with the offense and the defense in terms of how they react. All right, final clip in this package should be 56. Now, this is 4th down, and this is 56, so it's certainly first half. Now, it's 4th down. They're snapping from about the 23. What are the chances that Team A is actually going to run a play from scrimmage out of this formation? I would say at this point in the game, those odds would be very, very long. So we shouldn't be surprised by a quick kick. Now, why do teams quick kick? If you paid attention last week, you know that they quick kick to try to minimize the possibility of a return by Team B. So let's not get surprised. We need to think time, score, and situation and make sure that we have plays covered. And the other thing is, regardless, even though there's not going to be opposition back here with a kick returner, we still want to get and stay behind the football. You can see the deep wing at the top isn't terribly motivated to get back there. And I understand in that situation, no harm is done. I would just say, again, being creatures of habit, we don't want to allow that to become part of our thought process. All right, now this clip comes on during the substitution process. And if you note at the top, Team A has 4th down in about 6, okay? So they're not going to make a first down, even if Team B is guilty of an illegal substitution. And want to remind everyone, at least in Michigan, that the mechanic is in Michigan that we shut it down if Team B is not in the process of getting someone off of the field. We don't let them play with 12. That's the old NCAA mechanic, and until we're told otherwise, it's going to be the mechanic that we're going to use in across the state as far as how we're going to manage this. Now, if this is 4th and 5 or less, Team A may be trying to get a cheap substitution foul. Team B seems to be wise to this. They're not substituting. It probably has something to do with field position, that they are suspicious that Team A may try to run out of this formation regardless. So they're not making a substitution. My point here is when you see a late substitution like this, umpires get up over the ball. Now, the coach is going to say, why is he holding? Why is he holding the snap? And the answer that the line of scrimmage people need to be prepared to say is, we need to make sure that our officials in proper position to rule on this, and we're not going to allow the snap until that occurs. Now, he's not going to like that, but it's legitimate, and we need to do it that way. Okay. Now, the other side of it, obviously, is that we have to be alert. You can see the deep wing at the top of the screen progressed down there, got situated in time if necessary, had his pylon been threatened. All right. All right, this is an unusual situation. Team B doesn't have enough players on the field. I have not taken the time to count, but I assume they have 10 players on the field. Now, the proper procedure for number 5 or whatever his number is would be to come down the sideline and try to get into the game that way, as opposed to cutting through the offense. Now, I wouldn't blow the whistle immediately, but at the snap, I would shut it down and penalize Team A for illegal substitution. Now, you might say, well, that's not fair to Team A. Well, probably isn't, but if that quarterback gets blindsided by this player coming in because we allow that play to go, they're not going to give a rat's fanny about an advantage because their quarterback's going to be out of the game. Player safety is something we always have to take into consideration and will override other considerations. So here, this would be a dead ball when Team A snaps. Now, I presume that a timeout was taken, but let's say that it was not. You're going to shut that down. That's an illegal substitution and enforce your 5-yard foul, and away we go. Okay, number 21. Conversely, what we're going to have here is a Team B player departing. Now, incumbent about from all of us in this whole process is that we need to know the number of Team A and especially Team B, well, not especially, but we need to know the number of players for both teams on the field because this is focused primarily on Deep 3. That's the reason why I say we absolutely have to know how many Team B players are on the field. We need to know, is this guy the 11th player? Is he the 12th player? If he is the 11th player, we don't care because they're confused. They're going to play with 10. Obviously, if this player gets all the way off the field, he can't come back onto the field while the play is in process. But we need to know whether this departing player, what number he is. Is he 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever happens to be, so that we can make decisions accordingly. And again, if you have 020, you can communicate that back there among your Deep 3. You know, that's number 11 leaving the field. And if it's number 12, then the deep wing at the bottom of the screen is solely responsible for determining whether he gets off the field or not. Remember, by rule, he's got to have something down out of bounds. So airborne, he's still on the field. If he has a foot down out of bounds, he's off the field. but we don't want the deep, or we don't want the short wing making that decision. That short wing has got responsibilities on the line of scrimmage. That's going to rest solely with the deep wing. And if there's a foul, we're only going to have one flag, and it would be the deep wing on that side of the field. All right, the next clip, clip number 10. This is another down distance and situation. All right, fourth down. Amazingly, they go for this. Now, the point here on pre-snap is, once again, where is the line of scrimmage? You know, where, or excuse me, where's the line to gain? Now, you may have heard of cross-field mechanics, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because, again, primarily this is a deep three process. But when this play goes to the bottom of the screen, in this case, whoever is working the chains in this particular half needs to help his opposite wing with where this forward progress is. And you can see he doesn't move one iota. And I'm not sure that we get the right spot. If you look at where the player is when he catches this pass and is contacted, looks to me that like he's at about the 42. And we're going to mark this ball back at maybe the 41. Now, if the line to gain is not critical here, it's probably not a big deal between 41 or 42. But here, fourth down, that forward progress point is critical. So talk about cross-field mechanics as a part of your pre-snap routine. Our pre-snap includes preparation on free kicks. And in this particular situation, it's late in the game. We've got 6 in the box. You can see our short wings are up at the 45-yard line. After the PAT and before the kickoff on both sides of the field, there ought to be 2 mini conferences that take place between those 3 officials. Okay, what are you doing on this play? What are you doing on this play? This is what I'm doing. Review. Also remind each other to remain stationary to allow the play to develop and finish before we close down, because there's just this tendency that it looks like an accordion that gets closed down oftentimes when we ought to be keeping our distance until this play concludes. So pre-snap goes right along with not only punts, it goes with free kicks, it goes from plays from scrimmage. All right, now we're going to transition to dead ball. So as with the with pre-snap, you have the same connectivity in terms of the 3 different the cycle that we have, excuse me, with the 3 parts. We've now had our pre-snap. The ball has been alive, kick or play from scrimmage, and now we're in the dead ball period. All right, so you'll often hear things within a crew. We've got to be great dead ball officials. Well, that's all well and good, but if you don't know what goes into it, doesn't do much good. So that's why we're going to talk about it. First of all, you got to slow down, and there's an acronym for that. And because it's polite company, we won't get into it, but you need to slow down. We make serious mistakes when we don't. We need to understand that proper dead ball mechanics is not only a game management issue, it's a big player safety issue. It's where people can really get cold-cocked and get hurt. And it clearly upsets people when something bad happens, particularly when there's not a flag down. The best thing that we can do is to be proactive and preventative. And the way we do that is with our presence in given situations, and particularly our voice, whether it's over, let him go, whatever is applicable to the given situation, they should be able to hear you and feel your presence. We have to be able to prioritize the risks on different plays. Sometimes a runner goes out of bounds and there's no risk. The runner's gone out of bounds beyond the team bench. There's no obstacle over there for them. So we don't need to chase them out of bounds. On the other hand, when an opponent goes into, or when a defensive player goes into the offensive player's bench, that's a high priority, and we need to make sure we bring that player back. Um, so we'll go through some of those here. We need to make sure that we don't have more than one set of eyes, maybe two, on a runner going out of bounds. We shouldn't be ball hawking. You should have a general idea when the play goes away from you, whether you're short wing, deep wing, back judge, you should have a sense of when the runner is near the sideline without physically putting your nose on it and staring at the guy going out of bounds. You have other jobs to do in those given situations. So everyone has a job to do, and we make sure that we do it. Now, what I'm illustrating here is that the deep wing has prioritized action going out of bounds. Gregor, can they see my cursor?
Yes, they can. Yep.
Okay, good. So you can see that we have action out of bounds with opponents. That's an active situation. The side judge has committed and is going to come up and support this action out of bounds with the short wing. When the back judge sees that action, you've got to broaden your vision, and now you have to take responsibility for this engagement that's happening right here and maybe others further into the field. That's the teamwork that has to take place out on the field. Now, what's being illustrated here is that while we have opposing jersey colors in proximity to each other, we can't be doing other things. Like we can't be thinking about getting a ball until we get 79 out of there and whatever this guy's number is. And we've cleared these so that we don't have those opposing jersey colors in proximity to each other. We got to concentrate on this. It's got to be as much a part of our responsibility out in the field as we handle punt coverage or any other aspect, a deep fade pattern right at our pylon. We got to be on top of it. We got to be patient. A lot of dead ball mechanic stuff is just simply being patient in reading to see whether we need to prioritize action out of bounds or not. Knowing where and when to look for things. We talked about that a little bit, particularly when we've got opponents that are out of phase or running against the grain. That's when somebody absolutely gets cold-cocked. And again, that is not only a safety issue, but it's a game control issue. You'll get a big assistance if you can keep your white area clear. That gives you 6 feet over there. That should be clear and will reduce the amount of coverage that you have to have if you are not looking through coaches and players and all those other people. We have to keep our vision wide. When we get in 2 weeks, when we're talking about base mechanics, and you heard me talk about this with particularly punt coverage, we've got to put our widest thread on our outside eye, which then opens the field to us to see the kick returner. Or in this particular case, if we don't put our nose on the runner, we put the runner on our outside eye, we can see players and opponents that are coming towards the dead ball area. We got to work on it. And like with pre-snap routine, we got to take pride in it. All right. So in summary, ineffective dead ball mechanics is the source of a lot of our issues. If we're having problems with our game management and our game control, it's probably because we're not doing a very good job with dead ball officiating. We need to talk about the process of efficient and correct dead ball mechanics before every game, maybe pick it up at halftime if we had a glitch. And then when we're looking at video, hopefully the video doesn't cut off too quickly and we can see how, at least initially, we're reacting to a situation. Was it a high priority? Was it a low priority? All those sorts of things that we'll see in the video. And again, take pride in what you're doing. This is what we want to avoid, where somebody ends up on their backside and nobody has any idea how we ended up there. Now, this is going to be the opening kickoff of a state final. all right? And what we're going to see is it's going to be a pretty standard kickoff and return, but we're going to end up with a big old tub of goo over here at the bottom of the screen. Now, I also used this clip when we were talking about kickoff mechanics. So that's why all of that is in there, those blocks. And in the interest of time, we won't get into that. But this play is going to end somewhere near the sideline. We've got opponents into the bench. The kicking team players are still in there. We've not cleared those players out of the bench yet. And we're looking for a football. We don't need a football. And the back judge has probably come too far unless we're sensing that there's a problem here. Sometimes we can over hustle ourselves right out of good coverage. And that's really what's happened here. The deep wing for sure, and possibly the back judge, unless he, again, has spotted something that is cause for concern. And frankly, when you think there's going to be a problem and then you realize that it isn't, stop. You don't have to go all the way to the pile. Once you realize that it's cleared, pull up, broaden your vision, and look for opposite jersey colors. All right. Number 2 is going to illustrate a high priority situation. The runner is going to go into the opponent's bench at the top of the screen. All right, he flings him out of bounds. Now you've got the runner, receiver runner, who is now deep into the bench, probably back to where the player should be. And you can see that the deep wing is coming up. The short wing is coming to the spot and should be looking out of bounds. And the back judge should be looking from his point of view into the bench area. Now, the deep wing comes up, clears the player, and now works on getting a new ball into the game. That was a little bit quick with the new ball. I would like to see this player clear these defensive players that are out of bounds before we think about a ball. But he does bring him back to the field, but he's running through 2 or 3 of his opponents. All right, next clip should be number 6. And again, this is the emphasis here would be finishing plays. Quarterback scrambles, goes down, stop the clock. All right, now we should be looking in these areas, right? So deep wing over on the right side of the screen should have would be his left eye on the runner near down. And then that should open up his vision to see these opponents. Likewise, the back judge is coming up. He was on the end line. He's coming up under control, recognizing with wide vision that we need that support in here. This doesn't look like it's going to be a problem that clears pretty quickly. So that's the sort of mindset that we should have on a play like this. All right, let's go to number 61. A fundamental of our work is never to assume that the runner is going to be tackled or go out of bounds. Now you can see that our deep wing is facing head on this action, when what should really be happening is that the shoulder should be parallel with the line of scrimmage, because if he gets through there, what does the deep wing have to do? Has to defend the goal line, and the pylon could be in play, all right? So we can't assume that that runner is going to be tackled, driven out of bounds or otherwise. We're going to officiate as if he's going to break through all of this and continue and challenge our goal line pylon. Then the other thing is deep wings. I won't say that you won't ever blow your whistle on plays from scrimmage, but it's going to be really, really rare. There are going to be plays that particularly end downfield. There will be plays even when you have a completed catch where maybe you won't even blow your whistle at all. That is pretty obvious that the guy is down, that we don't need the benefit of the whistle. But in this situation, that's not a good habit to get into in terms of even having that whistle anywhere close to you. That's one of those invitations to an inadvertent whistle party. And that's an invitation that you don't want to receive, and you definitely don't want to go to that party. Stop it right now. Stop. All right. This has gone, the runner's gone into his own bench. Now, there's not a lot of traffic around there, but the player that we need to be concerned with is number one orange. The runner quarterback is not in jeopardy in any way, shape, or form. We're not going to look at him. And if he's in our field of vision, it's just because he happened to walk through it. The player that we need to bring out is number one. Now, again, we have the good fortune that nothing happens, but that's eventually something bad is going to happen. And let's just bring, and you've got another player right here. These players have to be brought back out to the field. And you can see there's a little chatter going on here between these substitutes that are out of the game and this guy. So that's action that we got to clear, because if there's a problem here, we need to know how it started and who's responsible. All right, let's go to the KOA. We got a couple of plays here, and then we're going to call it a night. This first play from the KOA is number 13. What we're going to get is we're going to get a suspect UNR late hit out of bounds. Now, we don't get the benefit of seeing where the runner is, how many feet are down out of bounds. Is he clearly out of bounds? It's certainly suspect. It looks like the defensive back comes up and attempts to lay a lick on him when he's out of bounds. And it looks like it was avoidable contact. If this is a foul, more than likely it's going to come from the deep wing. Okay. Now, people don't seem too upset about it, which is good, which is good. But the guideline that we're going to use is if there's 1 foot out of bounds, it's suspect for a late hit. They're 2 feet out of bounds, it's foul. The other factor there is the runner running east and west, or does he turn north or is he going north and south, or does he turn to be going towards the out of bounds? If he's running north and south, we're going to give a lot more discretion to the defensive players because they're not exactly sure where he is. If he wants safety and protection, he needs to turn so that he's out of bounds. All right, number 46. This is going to reinforce that we ball watchers are troublesome. The action is right there in the middle of the field. Now, if we've got 7 people watching this runner going out of bounds, we're not doing a very good job. Pure and simple, we're not doing a good job. We need 1, maybe 2 people to know what's going on over there and in terms of the sideline, and everyone else has jobs behind the play. So the short wing should be looking from like maybe tackle. Players going this way might have a look at this. Deep wing, we don't need you looking at the guy going out of bounds. This should be in your wheelhouse in terms of what happens here. Whether that's a pratfall or not, we're not going to debate that. But we've got to see it. Like, for instance, you might come to the conclusion that it's not a foul, that the white player greatly embellished what happened. Okay, if you saw the whole thing, you can come in to the referee, or maybe if someone threw a flag on it, you can come in and say, wait a minute, I saw that beginning to end. Yeah, they were kind of tied up. But then number, whatever it was, number 6 or whatever his number was, just really tried to make it look like it was a bigger deal than it was. And down he goes. Okay. And maybe we pick up a flag, but we got to have affirmative knowledge of what happened over there. And we're not going to get that if we've got everyone watching the ball out of bounds. All right. 67. Free kick. Now, we're going to end up with a big old pile over here at about the 35-yard line. Got a whole, maybe 40, got a whole bunch of folks over there. The majority of both teams are within 5 to 7 yards of each other. That's way too many opposite jersey colors. All right. Now, what we need to do here, everyone needs to come in. This is a time when you use your voice. It's over, it's over, it's over, what have you. You can see that the deep wing hesitated there at the 50. Instead of coming down and getting involved in this is a high priority, high risk situation for us here. And this is where we need to come in and dust things off and make sure that we've got people separated and that we don't have something develop out of this that will affect our overall game. He comes to the party late, it shuts off, so we don't know. And I'm sure nothing bad came out of it, but we're just late to the party. There's a time when you stay back and you just observe because it's a low priority. And then there's a time when you go, oh boy, this could go badly. And you come up and you immediately get involved and you start looking for and listening to what's going on to find out where you need to go and where you need to prioritize around the pile. And hopefully you have other people that are helping you do that. All right, we'll draw one conclusion here to show you the opposite side of this. That's number 64, Gregor. This is going to be a low risk, out of bounds situation. Pretty standard play. Guy goes out of bounds, no muss, no fuss. Now, I would say that the deep wing should remain, if not stationary, certainly pretty close to that goal line pylon. Let this play settle. The problem, if you're going to have in this situation, is right up here. You don't have a problem out of bounds. You've got the short wing coming up. These guys, there's some distance there. So put that runner out of bounds on what would be your your right eye and look back into the field. We come up and we want to get the ball from the quarterback. Oftentimes the quarterback will carry it right into the umpire. The runner will take it right into the umpire or give it to an official. We don't need to go and insist that we get the football. We'll get a ball. Okay. Just to summarize, these two areas, the pre-snap and the dead ball officiating, obviously are the bread and the meat of the sandwich, are the plays that occur from scrimmage. But we need to make sure that we have proper coverage, and we don't have mold on the bread either on the front end or the back end of that sandwich. So we do need to work on these things. Again, we need to talk about them. We need to study them and evaluate them. And if we do that, it'll help us so much with our game management. And if we take pride in it individually and as a crew, it's going to shine through. So put that in your bank to the degree that you can, whether it's while you're driving down the road or whatever it is that you're doing, you have a few moments and you're thinking about football, think about these two phases of the game and how you can do better at one or both of them. In your crew meetings, talk about them, particularly early in the season when we're laying the foundation of how we're going to handle our business throughout the season. These are two topics that we definitely should talk about. And as previously mentioned, talk about during the game among the crew, and then make adjustments accordingly. So that's the presentation for tonight. Next week, again, we're going to tape this on Sunday night at 7 o'clock due to a scheduling conflict that I have. So if you can make it at 7 o'clock, great. We'll be happy to have you. If you can't, the recorded version probably will be out sometime on Monday, and I'll do my best to get it out to you as quickly as possible. Topic for next week will be Make It Be There fouls or quality fouls, whatever handle you want to put on it. But it's another one of those areas that we need to think about, we need to talk about, and we'll get into the weeds on that next or this coming Sunday night. And another area that hopefully you'll think about and talk about. I'll just say this in conclusion as a teaser, if you will, for this next program, that in any game at almost any level from the NFL on down, there are probably 2 to 3 fouls that we really don't need to have. We can reduce our foul total. They're game interrupters. They're not things that involve safety or sporting behavior. They don't make a material difference in terms of how a player performed on a certain play. And for that reason, we should withhold the flag rather than throwing a flag that we don't need. So that's some of what we're going to talk about next time. I want to once again thank you for tuning into this and encourage you to continue to share this information with people that have interest, and we'll add them to our distribution list if they wish to be involved on a firsthand basis. So with that, we'll call it a night. Thank you once again, Gregor. Thanks for your able-bodied assistance with the video, and hope to see you Sunday night. Good night.